the effects on it ain't great, are they?
Not well. It was made in 1981.
No, it's 70s. 70s, The
70s.
Exorcist.
70s. It's a good film.
It's a bit much though, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it
You know what I mean?
much.
It's not. I don't know. It's not really scary. It's just a bit grotesque.
That's the thing with all the scary movies. None of them are scary.
They're not either. They're all just like it's gory. There's a that's a bit mingy.
Yeah.
But how many of them actually scary? What's a scary film?
So I spent a year once where every time I interviewed a football player or had it for more like 5 minutes, he went, "What's a film that scared you as a kid?" And the idea was you take all those answers and you stitch them up and you get 10, 15 minutes of just all these football players naming films that scared them as a kid. I remember Callum Hudson-Odoi told me that Chucky, he watched Child's Play under the age of 10, and he said Chucky frightened him something else as a kid.
But he watched it as a kid. That's the thing.
I watched Alien, I think, at like age 9.
Yeah.
And the chest burst. I was like, ah!
Yeah, that's pretty.
I think that's a good point because I remember babysitting. It's interesting you brought it up, and I watched horror films with my brother, and I was like 11, he was like 1 or 2, and he got really scared and emotionally scarred by them, probably for life.
Deeply traumatized.
Yeah. Whereas I was all right. Do you know what I mean? So I got through it, and now he's not too well.
I think it's hard to know whether you're scared or not sometimes.
What do you mean?
Because there's films that have made me feel like a real heavy feeling in like my chest and like my neck.
Yeah.
But am I scared or am I just anticipating or am I shocked? Like, what is
The discomfort.
Is someone jumping out? Is that scary or am I just shocked? Like, Midsummer made me feel very uncomfortable.
Midsummer.
But I don't know if it's
Midsummer
scared
Murders.
me. Midsummer Murders, yeah.
with Florence, Miss Florence
Yes,
Pugh.
that was a film where I was watching it, I was like,
great horror
oh,
film.
what's happening? But I wasn't like scared for my life. You know, some films you have to go and check the door afterwards.
Yeah.
Make sure it's locked.
Well, they call Midsummer psychological horror, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like
I get a bit
tension.
like that on certain documentaries.
Okay.
Like I've watched was it the Night Stalker one, the Richard Ramirez?
I've not seen this.
Is so the one in California was running
Yes,
around California murdering everyone, and he was breaking into houses. And I remember watching that, and it was late, and everyone else was in bed asleep, and I was downstairs and I watched it. And I remember like, I'm just gonna check that we did lock the door. Yeah, I did. I mean, the idea that Richard Ramirez was going to be coming to Eccles
because he killed like 40 odd people, though, didn't he?
Yeah, and he's either dead or locked up, or
the scariest film I've ever seen. It's the lifestyle being led in it, which is unimaginably terrifying. The monsters that are in it, and like the soundtrack.
Can we guess? Is it the Goonies?
Sex and the City.
See, that's something Mark Commode would say.
Yeah,
that's
so maybe you'd like Mark Commode.
Mark Commode's got one of the most famous Sex and the City reviews. That's one of his more famous reviews where he just says this is the most deplorable film of all time.
One of the worst films and scariest films.
Yeah,
of all
he said
time.
it's just like rampant capitalism and it's just like morally abhorrent.
Has a film never scared you then? We haven't all seen what you've seen though in real life.
No, but you must have watched a film when you was a kid. I know, like you've lived through terror.
A film that like
through the
probably
horrors.
a little bit scary early doors when you watch it at 7 or something is RoboCop.
Yes, because my introduction to RoboCop was through the children's cartoon. Because like all
the film's a little bit more real.
Exactly, all like loads of 80s films got cartoon spin-offs. So there was a Conan the Barbarian cartoon and whatnot. So the first time I watched RoboCop, I think I was maybe 12. I went, oh, it'd be like the cartoon, and then
not
obviously
really.
Murphy. You've never seen RoboCop?
Never seen RoboCop.
I've got a massive blind spot for all of those 80s action films.
Oh, you got to watch
Die Hard, RoboCop, Terminator.
RoboCop
explains a lot.
RoboCop is a
explains
perfect
so
film.
fucking much.
Because
it's such a good film. Though. It's a genuinely good film.
Is it?
But it's genuinely fucking horrific when you're 6.
Is he anything to do with the robot Refbot from Robot Wars?
No. But I'll tell you that it's quite fucking traumatic how they kill him. Yeah, without a spoiler alert, because it's in the first 3 minutes of the film.
15.
They fucking kill him proper.
Kill the robot cop.
Well, he's a real cop.
He's a real man.
He ends up as a robot, Joe. Shit happened.
He's had 40 years to watch this, or however old he is.
So
he's not going to watch it now.
Fuck your spoilers.
So you
fuck
can
you.
tell him.
Watch RoboCop.
You can tell him that, like,
Watch RoboCop.
Okay.
It is a good film, though.
Is it?
It's a perfect film. 5 stars.
It's a very good film.
We're not just going to talk about RoboCop though, because
Jay only watched it for the sniff.
Yeah, I hate that bit. That's the bit that scares me, where he spills all that sniff on there and he gets killed. That's such a waste. And the guy who kills him don't even take it. Are you thick?
Yeah, this is going to be
Oh my
good.
God.
We've got grenades, we've got futuristic robot AI. See, it's a warning about the future and robots and OCP Corp, right? It's such a good film, and it ages really well.
It's aged incredible.
Some of the special effects,
they aged very
not so great. When Ed 209 is chasing people down the street outside, you go, that's
Yeah.
stop motion animation
Yeah.
with about £3 budget, but everything else is mega.
Yeah, it is
It
really
was
good.
It's so fucking gory though. It is.
Is it?
It's
I thought it was like
it's
a
top shelf.
semi-kid.
No.
That's what
Robocop's
Carl
at
thought
8.
when he watched it at
It's
12.
horrifically violent.
Clearly what my fucking
this
uncle
is-
thought when he bought it me at 6.
Oh no, mate.
This is where,
Yeah,
as
watch
they
that, Merry
say,
Christmas.
I lose the room.
Okay.
Go on.
I'm not going to lie to you. I kind of enjoyed RoboCop 2. I'm
It's not
sorry.
bad. It's
I
not
did.
bad.
New
RoboCop 3 is terrible.
No, RoboCop 3 is disastrous. RoboCop 3 fell
Is that
apart.
the one that happened about 10 years ago?
No, so that's the remake. So RoboCop 1
Oh,
is
yeah,
the story
that
of
was
Murphy. RoboCop 2 is when they try and make a bigger RoboCop.
Yeah.
Which is the machine you talked about. with the
Powered by
Robocop.
new-
At 209. As if you don't know what it's called. Close of a
RoboCop
RoboCop
3
fan.
is the one that they
The
turned from 18
the spike
to
for
like a
the
12.
key to get on
Yeah.
the computer. Come on, man. It's so fucking cool. Fuck you, Joe.
So RoboCop 3 is where RoboCop becomes more like a savior to children, and the violence is massively toned down.
it's the
Although
Mother Teresa
the plot
of RoboCops.
has a lot to do with the
Estate
gentrification
agents.
of
Video
Detroit.
estate agents.
Yes, things like this. Hello, this is a Manchester United show.
No,
Apparently.
it isn't.
Well,
it's
before
gonna be a
Successfully derailed.
yeah, Steve's happy
No.
now. Before we get into the United thing, though, there was another debate
Landman 2.
Yeah,
Sam
'cause-
Elliott's in
'cause-
it.
'cause-
Fucking come on, the boys.
because Carl was quite controversial before we went live. There, he was saying that a landman is actually just propaganda for the oil industry. I think was it. I don't know what.
It's there
Anti-green,
is
I
a
think
lot
you
of anti-green energy
How is your anti-green?
monologues
When I
in
say
there.
taking a 10 for the worst, I mean.
Oh, really?
Yeah, bless her. She's
Give him,
alright.
give him a best. Sorry,
Sorry, Carl.
sorry.
Landman is from the Yellowstone writers team.
Taylor Sheridan universe.
Yes, and it's got Billy Bob Thornton as the
AKA
player. He is the landman.
The greatest universe.
He is the landman, and if the oil industry has a problem, the landman sorts things out, Ray Donovan style. And it's
Not quite, no. You really need to watch it because that's not really what happens.
I'm
It's
being
not
put in my
really.
place here.
I mean, it's called Landman, but it's not really like Superman. He's not really a superhero.
He's not a superhero. He sorts things out, Ray Donovan
He
style.
does.
He's a fixer.
Yeah, he is a fixer. He is a fixer.
He is.
He's more of a general manager.
He's the Malcolm
Yeah,
Tucker
but
of,
I like the Ray Donovan.
big
I can see the
oil.
connotation.
Now, one thing that stands out in the early episode of Landman, there is some real odd sexual politics in that show, and the way Billy Bob's daughter.
It is a bit weird.
There is.
viewed is
However,
weird.
It is a
Billy
bit
Bob Thornton in real life had Angelina Jolie wearing a vial of his blood around her neck.
Yep.
So anything that happens in a show, it's fair game as far as I'm concerned. Because
Okay.
nothing's going to beat that for being weird.
Sure, I'll take that.
I don't think the Billy Bob Thornton. I think the
He acts his cock off in it as well. It's outrageous.
yeah, he's very good.
I've never heard that phrase before.
No,
acting his
it's
cock off.
About
Yeah.
once a week on it.
Yeah, pretty much every Friday, about 4:10, 4:15 sometimes.
Okay.
Steve says that.
Great, sure.
Usually about Billy Bob Thornton, but
Yeah.
he has said it about Kevin Costner
Yeah.
as well.
Sure.
I think to be fair, one or two others as well.
Not
Yeah.
Nick.
Why the cock off and not the bollocks?
Yeah,
Because he acted his bollocks off years ago.
Yeah.
yeah.
All he had left was the cock.
This makes more sense.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I've got a question for you, Carl. This is in the
Nick
chat.
Cage has still got a full set.
No, come on.
Right,
He's
do you know
never
what?
acted his cock
I
off.
want a new rule on this show. I know we don't have rules. Can we just stop talking about Nick Cage? Right, you hate Nick Cage. You're never gonna like Nick Cage.
Oh.
Do you know what? Do you know what? Actually, he's on at the cinema right now. 2 films that are on at the cinema at The View, Con Air,
Fantastic.
and The Rock.
Fantastic.
Two
brilliant
fantastic films. Not because of Nick Cage,
Inspired.
but two fan.
Yeah, they are. They
two
are great
fantastic
films.
films.
Steve Buscemi
He's in great
Con Air.
films.
Yeah.
He's in great films. He's just not great in
I think that's
You've seen
fair.
Leaving Las Vegas, right?
I've had Carl.
this is
Carl.
this is
I've had this with him. The
yeah,
Academy
this is the
Awards.
exception
Nothing
that-
to him.
This is the exception that
Right.
proves the rule.
You can't.
First argument we had about this, and I said, look, I dare to say,
There's no winning.
I dare to say, I don't rate him, but he was good in Leaving Las
Just
Vegas.
watch the opening of The Rock, hate him, and just copy and paste that across everything he's ever done ever.
He won an Oscar. Steve didn't care.
I'm
Steve
not-
wasn't
I'm
having
not
it.
rising
Face
to
off when he's grabbing the peaches.
I'm not-
Fucking shut up.
I'm not rising to these bars.
Yeah.
I'm not rising to these bars.
doing the right
He's
thing.
quite a sort of reserved actor, isn't he? Yastradamus, and I don't know what this means, Carl, right? So don't feel like you have to answer this. This isn't, it's a super chat, you've got to read it out. But I need to ask you, because I don't know. Carl, why does Freddie Gibbs follow you on X?
Because me and Freddie, I love Freddie Gibbs.
Right, I don't know who Freddie Gibbs is. So.
Freddie Gibbs is a fantastic rapper, one of my favorite rappers. He did Alfredo, which was one of the best albums, in my opinion, that came out over lockdown. I probably listened to Alfredo twice a day for about a 6-month period. And that's why Gibbs follows me, because I was very much like Freddie Gibbs, rabbit. Rabbit's
I know someone else who follows you as well. James Eden from Private White. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yes, I do. James is a lovely gentleman. John Cena also follows me, as does Ric Flair.
Does it?
Yeah.
How's that happened?
I mean, the Ric Flair one is because there was a time where I could do the entire Ric Flair Rolex wearing, diamond ring ring, limousine riding, jet flying, son of a gun promo. But we can do monologues.
How did he know about that?
Because I did it on camera on my birthday. Someone was giving me gas, and I did the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I was wearing a WWE title at the time.
With or without the cocaine?
I actually don't do cocaine.
It's okay, we're all friends here.
Yeah.
And Ric Flair and John Cena,
He does. Or did.
wrestlers, yeah?
Definitely did. By the way, there is a fucking scene of Hulk Hogan and Randy.
You sent me this the other day, didn't you?
Oh my god.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
There's a YouTube video.
How did we not know?
Wrestlers that very much look as if they're on cocaine.
100%.
I tell you something, brother.
I'm quite alright with saying,
It's the road.
I'm quite alright with saying that they were on it. I don't even think we needed an allegedly in it.
No,
I think he was transporting it in a McDonald's cup.
Yeah.
And to the brim.
So there's the Aerosmith, the lead singer of Aerosmith was
Steve
once
Tyler,
asked.
is it?
Yes, they were asked. They were on, I want to say Jonathan Ross, and they were asked about how they would imbibe their substances, and they said that very often they'd have a plastic cup with a straw, and the contents of the cup were substances, and then you just have your straw, you turn around mid-gig, and that's how you do it.
Wow. Just
Sick.
built, it's just
And that was
it's just
WrestleMania
built
14?
in. That's at the bottom as well, so it drops down like a normal cup. So it refills itself as well if you put
Do you
it
know
through the
what?
machine.
In all my years at Paddock, I don't think I've ever been prouder that we've got Carl Anka on again. And 20 minutes, we've had Landman, we've had cocaine through a cup, we've had horror films, RoboCop. You know what I mean?
You lot all started this when I saw a fucking tactics board.
Well, let's talk
Carl,
about...
No,
I
not
wanna
yet.
talk about-
I've been
Let's
round
see
the
where
Arndale
we
getting
go.
Carly's tactics board for a reason. Me and him went in 17 shops today looking for magnets. It's not going to be all for naught, Stephen. Right? You've had your Landman, you've had your Billy Bob Thornton acting his cock off, you've had your way for half this podcast. I want that tactics board to mean
I
something.
have a fucking week off and we bring me in. Joe's on for starters. Which
That makes me laugh. He's not done a video with Joe all week. He walks in, right? Joe goes away tomorrow for 2.5 weeks. And he goes, fuck's he doing here?
And Carl's brought a tactics board.
No, Carl hasn't brought a tactics board.
Right.
If Carl brought a tactics board, I wouldn't be bothered about it.
How long have we allowed guests to have a fucking rider though?
I know, I did say that.
It's new.
Well, it's Carlo, innit? It's Carl. Carl's part of the family.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
If only you had your own content you could fuck about with tactics on. This is Friday.
You okay, bud?
I'm fine.
This is happy Steve. He's not
He
angry.
really is.
You'll know when you can tell when Steve's angry. For starters, he's talking. So he's not
sit there.
angry.
Is it?
Yeah.
So he can't be that.
If you want to see Steve go from bemused to annoyed to fuming, watch the one with the Trailer Park Boys. There's one for you.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
interesting.
that was.
Joe, before we were on air, the guy's chatting away, being like normal, and then as soon as we went live, he put them specs on and wouldn't answer a question out of character.
And Steve hadn't seen the show.
Oh.
I've seen like 3 episodes 5 years ago.
And then what made it more difficult is not to disparage our guests, because we appreciate them coming on the show and it was great.
I will.
But then you had other people with him that were not in character.
It's so hard when...
And then you had someone else who was not part of the show, but involved in it somehow. He wasn't in character, but obviously didn't have a character to play.
Yeah,
Was
we had an
sort of
agent that was like a Liam Gallagher
a bit
tribute
quiet.
band.
So it was a bit, and I wasn't here to chaperone everyone through this, which
We had
I would
McCullough
normally
on,
do.
who was probably also high as giraffe pussy, so
High as what?
giraffe pussy.
Oh.
You know what? I'm always impressed by the fact you can still amaze me after all these years. I've known you for the best part of 2 decades and you still managed to do it. Carl, we've got enough time for you to get your tactics board out.
Hi.
Steve's
I wanna talk about
he's now
wingbacks.
successfully derailed over half the podcast. Look at this.
Almost a tactics
We've got a
board.
tactics board.
Is that the Christmas tree formation there, I see?
No,
We're going for a 3-4-3 here. I asked very nicely.
Why?
For
Why?
a tactics board.
Yeah, why are we going for 3-4-3?
Why are we doing this? What?
I asked very nicely for a
We're
tactics
talking
board.
about it.
They said next time will you come on? I
Can
said,
Carl have
"Can I have a
his
tactics
single,
board?"
please? There we go.
And we've got one here. So any questions you ask about tactics, I might just get the tactics board out.
So if you've got
questions
some
in the comments.
if you got some tactics,
But you don't just have to ask tactics questions, as you may have listened to. We can talk about many things on this show.
Miles says, I'm loving the tactics board.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you,
good.
Miles. I think that's like a compliment to me.
Why has it got your name next to it?
No, I got the tactics board, yeah? All Carl's done is show it. He's not done anything with it yet. I'm sure he will.
This is the great work of Jane Jones.
Yeah,
Thank
but
you.
we went out to several shops, didn't we? And this is what we did.
B&M's. Argus.
You can really feel
Sports Direct.
now Wilkinson's gone from the Arndale.
No, when you
so
said
much
that,
harder
didn't
to
you?
get
It's
stuff.
Did you go to that Ryman's?
Yeah.
Ryman.
Where did you get it from in the end?
So we got
Mate,
the tactics board from the works.
We suffered for our art. We didn't just
then-
go to one gaff and get both things. We bought a board and then the magnets.
I'm really
from two
impressed by
different
the
This
shops.
is why
as well.
the game has completely gone because you should just be able. There should be a sports shop
Yeah, there's
in
no sports
Manchester
shops
that you
anymore.
can walk in and get tactics from.
Yeah.
And that is why this generation ain't going to win a World Cup.
Well,
What did I say to you in Sports Direct?
Yeah, you said the same
This
thing.
is why we haven't won the World Cup since 1966.
'Cause there's no
This
coaches.
place should be absolutely dripping in tactics board, and I can't find any. Yeah.
How are you going to inspire the next generation of tactical wizardry when all that you get in fucking Sports Direct is Lonsdale?
Well, I would recommend subscribing to The Athletic now.
Oh yeah, that's a good
The
point.
Athletic brings you reportage from some of the best sports reporters in the world, featuring David Ornstein, James Horncastle, Rafa Honigstein, Amy Lawrence, Daniel Taylor, and more. Subscribe now.
Can we have a link in the chat, please, to The Athletic?
Yeah, do that.
Yeah.
And also Carl Anka.
Carl Anka.
No, I'm
Yeah.
not. I'm not.
You're
That-
one
Carl,
Great.
you're my favourite athletics. Athletics?
It's not
Athletics.
Sally Gunnell.
You're my favourite athletic writer we've had on this channel since Wednesday.
No,
Oh, he's done it. He's done it. Hi, Laurie. How you doing?
I'm only joking,
Have a great
Carl.
time. Hi,
I'm
Finn.
only joking. Mitten's my favourite. No, I'm joking.
It's fair, man.
Carl's
Yeah,
my favourite.
Carl's
I
my
love
favourite
Andy
too.
Minton.
Carl's my favourite too. We've got some chats. Okay, Ian Warren. Don't start. I saw your little look there. You saw that and started sulking. Pack it
I
in.
didn't see that.
Explain the pivot in Amorim's system using the tactics board, please. Carl.
Okay.
I've added the please, Carl.
Okay. I don't know how much
we might need
Jared a fucking
to
burner
put some
account.
sort of, get something to put
You're
the
playing
board
a
on.
3-4-3.
questions like that.
Green.
I don't even know
The
what pivot
green
is.
in this 3-4-3 are your defensive. So this, I'm going backwards here. So
Yeah.
he's your goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Let's make an actual change. I'm actually going to show you how this changes.
While
based
Carl's fucking about,
on-
Christodoulou says, "Hi gents, off topic, but for all of you, who is the nicest ex-pro you've met and why?" Mosif.
It's got to be Brian McClare, I think, because he actually treats us and is really nice to us and is lovely and just always is perfect.
Chris
I'd say
Hutton
Brian McClare.
is one of the nicest men in football.
Who?
He isn't Chris Hutton. Hutton.
Chris
Former
Hutton.
Brighton.
Oh, former Brighton.
Former Brighton.
Republic of Ireland defender.
Yes, he's an absolute delight. One of the nicest people you ever meet.
Um,
Am I saying it wrong? Or are you saying it
I
wrong?
don't know.
I'm paused now, and I'm concerned. I've been saying his name wrong. I'm very sorry, Christopher.
Do you know what I think is really nice?
Go on.
And I've had nothing but good experiences whenever I've chatted to him, and he's just been proper friendly and lovely. Brian Robson.
He's fantastic.
Yeah, but you're all wrong.
All right, go on then.
Man United played well and
What's
Sociedad.
the right answer?
And at half time, Dion Dublin called me big man. They called me big dog. He said, "Are you okay,
big
big
dog."
dog?" And it was a real just like,
I'd kill for a big dog.
I think
From
if you
Dion
meet
Dublin,
him,
I was
you'll
like,
get it.
That'd be.
Dion Dublin
Do you know what he called Ronnie? Do you know what he called Ronnie?
Bubba.
Bubba.
"Oh,
I'm not going to blow
Mate,
his
if
shit
you're
up.
Dublin, call me Bubba.
But if
I'm
you
jumping
search-
straight off Barton
Mate,
Bridge,
If you
life
maybe
will get
search
better.
Bubba Dublin on Facebook, you might find his Facebook page.
made my week."
It's Alex Stepney, and there's not even a second.
Oh, he's won.
Fantastic.
It is. It's Alex Stepney.
Love
I
it.
hate when
He is the greatest.
No, you're right.
Yeah, I'm right. I knew I was right when I said it.
Alex Stepney made Nobby Styles chinning someone.
Oh, that's it.
sound.
I'll just do that on the one.
Yeah.
Sure.
Nice.
There you go. Okay, so this
Right,
is
come on,
Ten
Carl.
Hag's 4-2-3-1. Very important thing for your pivot players is they need to carry, progress the ball. So because very often build up, you basically in a 6, one player will drop deep, collect the ball, carry here. This is why Mainoo is really, really important because beforehand, Casemiro tried to do it, but Casemiro wasn't great when he dropped deep because if you pressed him, he couldn't turn. One of the issues I've always had with Bruno Fernandes is when he drops deep, while Bruno Fernandes is good at loads of things, he's not great if he feels a defender on his back when he's being pressed. This is why Fernandes does loads of flicks, hooks around the corner because he doesn't want the ball with someone on his back. He's just trying to get it out. He's trying to hot potato it. When Fernandes drops deep, he either goes wide to drop deep so he can try and flick around the corner. Now chase and whatnot. So that's in the Ten Hag way. When you go to the 3 at the back under Amorim, the pivot changes because, well, your build-up doesn't actually need one of your midfielders to drop deep because it's being carried on by your 3 at the back. So these two are your out-of-possession demons. These are guys that are very much about win that ball as many times as possible, recycle possession. It has changed, or it changed when it was a Sporting and Hulman came through in Denmark, because Hulman was one of the better passers Amorim had ever worked with at Sporting. But primarily these two are for your out of possession. If there is one thing that will help United central midfield players help get United to the level of what Sporting did, is that can you get players that can drop deep and carry the ball? Because, well, Ugarte can tackle loads. Ugarte's not the most progressive passer. He's not someone that can dribble through tight areas, and Bruno Fernandes can't do that. If you can get someone who's very good at taking the ball from their side of the half into the other one to suck in defences and go, and now I'm going to give it to your wing-backs, because your wing-backs are going to provide your loads of width. Good. But primarily, most important thing for these two is, are these two athletic? Are these two going to be able to tackle loads? Are these two going to be able to carry the ball? And then if they can progressive pass, especially over longer distances, you're in. This will be relevant for when we talk about Mainoo later, if you want to talk about Mainoo later.
So are you telling me that we still need Frankie de Jong?
I think you need someone else.
So, interesting thing about Frankie de Jong. When Frankie de Jong goes to drop deep, and Frankie de Jong is one of the best in the world at taking the ball from the edge of your penalty area to the edge of
actually dribbling with it.
Yeah, but when de Jong drops deep to pick up the ball, he has to collect the ball facing forward. He hates it when someone's on his back too, and this is why de Jong at Barcelona in the early years was really, really difficult, because they wanted to play him as a single pivot in the 4-2-3-1 and he'd drop. The moment you just go through his back, because de Jong is not great with his hips, he doesn't have the Eden Hazard style backside, shall we say. So
narrow.
What they did, what Barcelona did at the time of when United knocked him out of the Europa League, is they played a box midfield. So there was always the extra bit of defensive security when de Jong collected the ball. So he would be facing the opposition net when he did it. And then he'd be like, and now I'm going for a run. There are loads of ways you can change and tweak that stuff. I will say, Man United might, if there was unlimited budget, I'd say Man United should be in the market for 2 central midfielders this summer. But there's not an unlimited budget. So Carrington will have to be the key.
You don't think we'll sign anybody for that?
I think what do you think the priorities are in the summer?
I think central midfield and striker, and depending what you're going to do with Diallo. I wouldn't mind Diallo as the right wing back.
Okay, so if we go central midfield and striker, strikers aren't cheap, and I
don't think there's an obvious one either.
No, strikers aren't cheap, and there's no obvious one. And let's say in this summer market, the majority of your, however much dough you've got, and most of the noise we're hearing is not too much, you're going to want to commit the majority of it on a striker, which means you're going to have to use whatever left to get yourself a central midfielder, which means that additional central midfielder, I think you're trying to look for one person who can play next to Ugarte and one person who can come in for Ugarte, because Ugarte is doing a phenomenal amount of running. That Ugarte understudy, there is space for that player not to be someone you buy in the summer, but someone to come up through the academy, or could already be someone who's making that jump, like say Collier.
I'd be shocked if Collier's got the ability to do from a starting position and hit 40-50 games a year. I did a video this week and I settled on Anton Stack as the option.
He is a fantastic football player, and when I did my shopping for Ten Hag in the summer, Stack was one that came up in our sort of, we want to find someone who can play next to Kobbie Mainoo. Kobbie like Robbie, come on.
I went with the idea of almost replicating what you get a little bit in Ugarte, rather than going with something a bit more asymmetric like an Ugarte and a de Jong. And Stack also, because he's a fucking unit,
he is,
brings in a little bit of physicality, because I think there's a bit of a low ceiling for the physicality.
You are completely correct. One thing I say quite a lot, Harrison over at the Overlap Breakdown office says as well, is Amrin needs some shin kickers. United, ideally over Amrin, will probably get quite taller over the next couple of years. You remember how tall Mourinho's United would? I think if they had signed Eric Dyer, it would have been the tallest starting 11 in the Premier League, if not of all time, because it would have all been 6-footers. And then progressively they got shorter and shorter.
But as people think technical, Bruno Fernandes types, and some people go, he's not technical. He is.
He is.
They go technical and they go small, but what City did, and that I think was one of the major evolutions of Pep as a coach, was going from the tiki-taka Barca technicians into that City team a couple of years ago.
That treble team was tall.
Units FC.
I never seen.
Rodri's a fucking big.
I
had never seen.
De Bruyne is one of their most technical players, skillful players. What is he? 6'1", 6'2"? He's big for.
If you think about it, sort of like the infinite 8 loop. So Xavi used to call football a game of time and space, and someone explained it to me in terms of physicality and technical ability is if you are taking a touch on the, you've dropped deep, you're trying to take a touch on the ball from your goalkeeper, and there's someone on your back. The stronger you are physically, the more touches you can take while that person is trying to go through you. If you're not the biggest, then that first touch you do before you ping it around the corner, it's got to be super sharp. So your technical ability and your physical ability are very often linked. And if you can find someone out there who is really, really big and really good on the ball, amazing, fantastic. That's why you're going to cost 60 million plus.
Would that be a Paul Pogba?
Yeah.
This is why Paul Pogba was so amazing. However, unfortunately, the problem with Paul Pogba was he was 6'2", but he played like he was 5'9". He just hated defending, didn't he?
Yeah.
Just hated it. And so this is the thing. But also, like in general, this entire Man United team needs to be more physical. Amorim talks about physicality all the time. One thing that was really interesting to me after they beat Real Sociedad at Old Trafford was he mentioned physicality repeatedly. He says, we're really physical, really physical.
Diogo was
He said physicality.
I think that's why he's been bought, Dog.
He said physicality will be a really interesting test against Lyon, because he said that will be a different test physically. To which I asked Amorim, how do you prepare for physicality in the Premier League compared to how you compare to it in the Europa League? And this was through the prism of you're going to play Leicester. And he said, well, we're going to go man for man against Leicester. And you have to use different tools when you're in the Premier League. And I think this is a big thing for United is in the Europa League, at least at this level, quarter-final, semi-final, the United players are the biggest and the strongest because the Premier League is the land of the big giants now. In the Premier League, United are where they are because you've seen...
we suit Europa League football at the moment, pace of it and everything.
We've seen so many games of United this season. Crystal Palace.
There's no coincidence that
Brighton.
we're defeated still.
That first half against Bournemouth, that first half against Everton at Goodison
The
Park.
first half against Newcastle was one of the worst we've ever
You're just getting beaten up.
So bad, wasn't it?
But they're another big team.
Yeah, right?
Physical,
look at Newcastle's
athletic.
midfield, right? That is just... If you go past Joe Ellington's going to try and suplex you.
Yeah.
And you need players who can deal with that. You need players who are willing to suplex back. And Ugarte is definitely someone who has that sort of physicality, but you want to try and get someone who can marry the two of that technical ability and physicality. And this is also why Carrington will be really important, because you know who's really physical? Young Bucks.
Intense-wise, if not weight-wise.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have anyone that you think ticks those boxes?
Oh yeah, Kone. What do you think?
Yeah, it's like a Kone. Could he be the guy?
Kone is an interesting football player. So when Manchester United did their post-summer transfer window briefing, so I was in the room with Omar Barada, I was in the room with Dan Ashworth. This was hours before United played Liverpool at Old Trafford, and it was their sort of, we're trying to offer more visibility, ask us more questions. And one of the questions was about Kone, and Kone was described as a player that perhaps was signed very much for the future and was signed with perhaps less oversight from Erik ten Hag at the time, but was more like, we're going to get this sort of talent in now. And something that was also raised is the fact that you've seen across all Premier League clubs now, they're just signing players way younger now. And this is why you have Finn on, because lots of clubs are now trying to buy players before the age of 18, get them in through their academy and then push them forward. You're also seeing clubs are just not spending as much dough in players over the age of 26. A really good example of this can be found in Real Madrid. They spent 110 million on Eden Hazard. Hazard rocks up. He is physically...
That was one of the worst transfers ever.
It is.
It goes under the radar.
But he's physically...
Hazard
to Real Madrid.
They were successful.
He can't run the same way he used to. But ever since then, Real Madrid do not, or they very rarely spend transfer sums on players over the age of 26. They are going much younger. And I think you might see that from Manchester United.
They started a while ago, didn't they, with the likes of Vinicius and that, didn't they?
Yeah.
You just
Chouameni was an absolute shed load, wasn't
they spent a fortune on Vinicius, and everyone was like, what? So yeah, he's actually pretty good, actually.
You spend
Not too bad, not too shabby.
I think
Done a few bits.
the big sums now, and if you are someone who, I mean, to me, I still remember there was a 10-year period plus where the most expensive transfer in the world was Zinedine Zidane to Real Madrid. And to my mind, if someone ever goes for more than that money, I'm like, you can't be 60 million. That's the Zidane total. Yeah. But I think you are going to see more 60, 70, 80 million, or the world record sums for football players will all be for players now under the age of 25. No one wants to buy.
I think it started with when the Neymar free transfer fiasco happened, because that's a shit show, innit? I think when that happened, I think everyone, and if they didn't, they should have done, went, oh, this is mental. Yeah. Like, you can't spend, like, you're literally football club priced players now.
Yes.
And that can't be sustainable.
Was it 200 million?
222
you can literally buy
to get the release clause, and I believe
stadium and a squad and a training ground.
Neymar's family got some sort.
You can literally
got hotels of some sort as well.
Any except like 15 football clubs in the world for that.
Yeah, literally.
Like, that's absolutely absurd.
I thought then that you're going to see people just go, right, let's just spend that on our academy, because if we can build half of that value in our academy, we are still here in 10
Manchester
years.
United inadvertently paid for Leicester City's training ground.
What with Maguire?
Indeed.
Who got the better deal though?
That's
Yeah.
nice.
Manchester United.
Glad some good came of that.
I'm tongue-in-cheek there.
They got relegated, so what did they spend?
Yeah, anyway, I like Maguire.
Soyuncu in a relegation?
Yeah.
I'll take Maguire any day.
Sure. Akash K says, does Carl think it's noteworthy that JP Morgan and the Glazers haven't commented on the stadium? Carl, love talk of the Devils.
Thank you. The stadium podcast discussion we've had is interesting because obviously, I mean, the thing I find really interesting about Man United is they work on 3 tiers, right? So you've got the local Manchester United news and how it's relevant. So the stadium, how does the stadium affect the pubs? How does it affect the Bishop's Place? How does it affect Trafford pub? Then you've got the national interest. So if you don't live in Manchester, you're asking questions like, wait, what's the Labour government going to do in regards to this Trafford redevelopment? And then you've got the international, right? So the international Manchester United fan is going, how much are you going to charge for tickets to that stadium as well?
Loads.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure, but it's in that bracket.
In short, in terms of comments from JP Morgan and the Glazers, I mean, the majority of the noise we're getting is that this is a Jim Ratcliffe project. This is his legacy project, right?
Are they just giving him complete and utter control of everything? They
just went, are we still getting our checks?
Yeah, Sam, do what you want.
He's going to take a hold of the footballing department and report back to the Glazers and work together. Now it's like he's sacking everyone who works there. He's literally changing what Manchester looks like, and the Glazers are just going, "Oh, cool, yeah, we'll look at the box."
Well, this was raised quite early on when it was Ineos are going to take care of football decisions. I mean,
What else is there?
Which football stadium do Manchester United play in?
Yeah.
That is technically a football decision.
Yeah.
And I suppose it's one of those things that they are very football.
I have these conversations.
What are Manchester United? A football club.
Yeah.
There you go. Any decision is a football one.
It's a very stretchy definition. And,
What does it say on his payslip?
Football.
And the
Did it say on his
relationship
payslip?
between
Yeah.
the relationship between the Glazer family and Ineos and Sir Jim Ratcliffe is something we are still learning to grasp. I mean, the last set of interviews from Ratcliffe, he called them lovely people, I believe was
There was some side-eyeing going on, weren't there?
Yeah.
There was a little bit of like elbow nudging.
It was an interesting one.
He wasn't critical, but he did sort of hint at like everything we've done for the last 10 years has been shit, but the Glazers are great. And you're like, well, those two things.
I thought Neville pushed him on it a bit, didn't he?
Yeah,
and
he
I thought
did.
there was a moment where Neville was pushing him about the redundancies and the cutting the costs, and then you've got the Glazers taking out all this money, and why aren't they putting any in? And there was I don't want to be too deep, but like even with the pauses, you could see there was a bit like. No,
And
they're
Gary
really
Neville
good.
clearly, because he's part of that task force,
Yeah.
clearly knows the full briefing. So some of those questions were performative.
Yeah, of course they were. But he
And
has
probably
like,
agreed on beforehand.
Yeah,
You think so?
He had to do that.
I do.
He had to. Gary Neville
I thought
knows.
they both handled it really well.
I know. I thought Gary Neville knows, right? He's a United fan. He's got to ask the questions about the Glazers because United will be like, why did you sit down with Jim Ratcliffe and not ask the questions that all United fans want to know about the Glazers and the relationship with them and why they're not putting up money and why we cutting staff when they've taken out, well, they've cost us £1 billion in loans and debt and all the rest of it and dividends. So he had to ask those questions. The only thing I thought he did, well, not the only thing, but what I was pleasantly surprised with, he didn't just go, here's a Glazers question, right, let's move on. He kept at him and was like, come on, Jim. Like, you can't tell me.
It was
which
a really
I thought was
good,
fair
interesting-
enough because, you know, I know you could always go further, but you can't just keep going on and on and on.
Sure.
You have to move forward at some point and move on with the interview. And I thought he did a pretty good job, to be honest
He
with
did.
you.
He was a really well-structured interview, and I think it was very illuminating. Not just his interview, Dan Rowan's interview with the BBC.
Yeah, he's got a good relationship, hasn't he, with him.
Dan Rowan is
he's interviewed him
fantastic.
a few
at what he
times,
does.
hasn't he?
And also the interviews in the Times were also really interesting to me as well. I read the transcript of Rowan's one. I need to go back and watch it.
I think the only
I need to
the
get a grasp of those
confusion.
pauses that you brought up as well.
Yeah, I
The
just think it
confusion
was-
about it is just like, it feels like Jim Ratcliffe has got some sort of a play to be the majority or entire owner. I just don't know the mechanism for how he arrives there or how this stadium's being funded. Does that cement the Glazers being there, or does that help facilitate their exit? Like,
This is the you put 2 and 2 together, and are you going to get 4 or are you going to get 22? So there is not too much detail, protein, however you want to describe it, on how this stadium,
protein, like it.
Yeah.
nicked it from Secession. Logan was like, where's the protein? There's not too much
Love
detail on how this
Succession,
stadium is going to be funded. This is my taking my hat off as a journalist and going, okay, I'm trying to look at this. If you are going to try and build that sort of infrastructure, you might want to follow what Tottenham did, which is you leverage, you take out loans, you leverage against the asset. So it's the idea of XYZ different partners come invest and provide some money for this, and then for the X amount of years, we will pay off. And if you can get enough matches, enough gigs, enough events, then you'll be able to pay that off quite quickly. It's this idea of, I remember going to the Wanda Metropolitano, it's not even called the Wanda Metropolitano anymore, but I remember going to Atletico Madrid's new stadium when it was unveiled in, I want to say 2018, sorry. And the idea there with Atletico Madrid Stadium was this was going to be the best football stadium in Western Europe for the next 30 years. And then Spurs released their one, and you're going, well, that's the best one. And what Tottenham have done that a lot of football clubs across Europe are now doing, or now want to do, is this idea of we don't want you to just come to the ground for 2.5 hours for the game, so 30 minutes before the game, and then you leave at full time. We want you to spend all afternoon there. Spend more money.
But that should have kind of been something that the clubs around the world should have been investing in anyway.
This is a very American style approach. So American sports, NFL, you have tailgating, you spend your whole afternoon there. You go to baseball. Baseball is still, to me, quite slow to watch on TV, but you spend the whole day at the baseball in the States. It's tremendous.
I've been to a couple.
Right?
I got it when I went and watched it live.
Yeah, if you want to get baseball, you have to go watch it live. And this is the idea of don't just come in for the game. Go in 2 hours early. Go to the fan zone. Drop your kids off in the area where you can play PlayStation 5. Go spend an hour before kickoff talking to a legend. Then you go watch the game. Then at halftime you have some beers or you have some wine in various parts of the ground. Then at full time you can go back to talk to your legend. Or then perhaps someone is doing a podcast from your favourite club podcast in the podcasting area in the stadium as well.
That's an exclusive just dropped.
The idea is, instead of you just going and buying your ticket and spending 10 quid on food and you're not spending 10 quid on food and drink and beverages at Old Trafford, let me be serious. You're not just spending your ticket money and your beverage money in there, but you're spending way more because you're there for 6 hours. And everyone wants to do this, and Tottenham Hotspur seem to be the one who's leading the way in the Premier League at least. And the way they're doing it, or the way they're financing their stadium, is also one that you would want to try and copy. However, ... Remember, my journalism hat is still off.
Yeah, don't forget that.
One reason why it's harder to do what Tottenham Hotspur did is because interest rates have gone up. So the years we had of zero interest rates and borrowing, and it's just a lot harder to borrow money in the way that Tottenham did because they did it all pre-COVID. COVID has completely changed how you borrow money. I think it's like 2% now, which doesn't seem a lot, but it has huge effects, not just on...
Here's when you're a fucking billion.
There you go. So that makes things harder. So you have to, if you want to borrow money in order to build a big steel money-making machine, you probably have to make that money-making machine look very, very, very appealing. And that may have played into why the new Old Trafford designs look that way, because you're trying to attract so many people from around the world going, would you like to invest in some of this for a while? We're going to not just have one of the greatest football teams in the world playing here. We're going to be having Beyonce gigs. We're going to be having Formula E in here. We're going to be having this show and this show and this show. This stadium's going to be so good that the next time Oasis decide to come back, they're not going to be playing in this place, but they're going to be wanting to play here. And that's when you get more money in. Again, journalism hat, still off.
Yeah.
What was the question?
Facilitating the Glazer exit.
Yeah. Well. And this is a big question in that if you are going to all this time, money, and effort to build something like this, surely you'd want more control, maybe. However, if you are going to build this thing and it's going to be excellent, or it's going to be striving for excellence in some way, that asset that you own is only going to earn more money, surely. So
could they make it so when Old Trafford is sold, that goes into pot A, and Jim builds the stadium out of pot B, that's not the Glazers, and then rents the ground off himself?
You're going to need lawyers and accountants who are way smarter and way more intelligent and way more knowledgeable.
And hopefully more intelligent than Glazers, and the Glazers go, oh fuck. Why did we think of that? And Jim's like,
It's going to be.
Because nothing else makes sense. There's got to be a little bit of a fucking watch the thing is and da-da.
Manchester United are.
Imagine if imagine that's how he fucked him. Oh, I'd be here for it. I'll build him a statue.
I was speaking to Laura about this the other day, funnily enough. But the whole like multi-purpose arena element of it, and we even saw in the
monster
CGI,
trucks.
we saw monster trucks.
I'll put my Jonathan hat back
a
on.
gig, get that back on.
Stick that on.
The press thing in it.
Yeah, of course.
Old school.
How does that marry up with the roof doesn't close, the pitch doesn't retract? Like we used to, I've said this, but you used to get the rugby league lines on the pitch on the Old Trafford before, and you go to the game and you'd be like, is that the 18-yard line or is that something like? It feels like we're like 3/4 of the way to this being like, let's put F1 cars or Formula E cars in here, but also it's going to be raining on Paul McCartney's head. Is it like how is it,
the canopy?
Are we going far enough?
So if you can Google this right now. It's sort of the multiple pitches that exist in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and they're all retractable, so they can pull one out, and then when the F1 NFL teams come out, they're on different turf, and then they've got like 6 or 7.
Yeah,
you can Google how that looks like.
Like the old CD change.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
Now that's not necessarily the sort of detail you get on render 1 of a stadium. Let's be really, really mean here. Stadiums always go over budget. Stadiums never arrive on time. And your initial...
Yeah, we got loads of cash though.
This is what the stadium looks like.
Yeah.
This is what the stadium looks like, and what eventually happens are 2 very different things. This is also, the renders that we've been shown, they haven't been, as far as we know, and you can please yell at me and correct me in the comments and whatnot if I get this wrong, it doesn't come across to me as if they've gone through any rounds of sound consultation yet.
Through like an architect who goes... When a gust of wind comes down that ship canal, that's fucked.
No. So let's say, has this been given to a focus group of supporters provided by Must, for example?
I don't think the actual designs have. I think the idea is new stadium or old stadium, and
so
then
that has. So what it looks like. This is a football stadium that they're saying can be built in 5 years, which my eyebrows like flew off my head. I went, no, it's not.
Getting them fellas who did Qatar, they were dead cheap.
This is also a very interesting thing of...
Some of them were free.
So the idea that was raised in the unveiling was they can do it in 5 years because they're going to use modular building. I think someone said a bit like Meccano.
Yeah, they did.
So you can use the Manchester Canal and you can get it built in other places around the world. I think Malaysia was brought up as a place that can be built. And
so they're going to... Oh, right, okay.
We're going to build a boat.
But this was also...
Build it in Malaysia, it's down the road.
But this is a really interesting question in that... Are you trying to get parts of your stadium, if not your entire stadium, being built by workers in the global south?
Correct.
And that,
interesting.
That will be a question that will eventually be asked to this team as we get more detail.
I'm sure no one will have any issues with that, obviously, because that's going to be. That's
just using all the same labour that Qatar had.
Yeah,
exactly.
We're providing.
They're literally giving us one of the stadiums.
Yeah, nice one. Providing opportunities globally. What's the problem?
We don't know, and the answer to that could be no. We could be told. We could find out that actually we're going to get. The workers will be from here, and here, and here, and it might not be a thing. It'll
be an American company, which then subcontracts it out to.
We don't know.
Slave labor.
We don't know. We're talking. Oh, okay. We don't know. We're talking in day one of a project that will take at least 5 years.
It's indentured, and you're not allowed your passport until it's finished labour.
Yeah, I think that's how they term it.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll have to wait and see how that happens. I mean, that opens up a whole other moral can of worms, doesn't it?
There's fantastic literature on Mondial magazine about the stadiums from Italia 90. And basically, like how it was basically like, here are all the stadiums they built for Italia 90, and like here's how many of these stadiums were built with the influence of the Italian mob.
Really?
Oh, is it all of them? Wasn't the Del Alpi one of the ones that was built for it, and then they fucked it off about 10 years later?
Yeah, look, the stadium building stadiums is hard, it's difficult, it's expensive, and it involves loads of people.
The Stade d'Alpi?
Yeah.
I only think of Roy Keane when I think of the Stade d'Alpi, forgive me.
As you should. Yeah, as you should.
Sorry.
That was where Gaza cried.
Oh, was it?
Also, you mentioned this stadium. How long do they think it's going to last for? Because the last one lasted 100 years. Is this one good? How long is this one going to be? Did they ever?
It's like fucking Triggers Broom.
No, it didn't. But
I would.
the ability to Triggers
This is a very
Broomify
good
it.
priest. That's a very good. Yeah.
This ship of Theseus.
It was. It looked fuck all like it does now
No, but
in 1908.
the ability
mate.
to Triggers Broom it is what kept it going for 100 years. If this one is like finished,
Like every modern stadium ever.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Architects will.
So in 30 years, we're going to need a new one.
No, because they literally plan that fucking obsolescence into it.
And I think this is also why it's the task force eventually took the decision to go for a new build rather than to redevelop Old Trafford, because essentially, due to years of not upgrading Old Trafford, the amount of money it would have cost to redevelop Old Trafford to become one of the best football stadiums in the world again would have been X fee, and then the amount of money to build an entirely new stadium wouldn't have been that much bigger. So it's like, well, if you're going to spend that much money, you may as well spend that much money times point something else to build a brand new stadium as well.
And get all the
and then get everything you need
around it as well.
So, I mean, you talk to modern architecture companies. I spoke to Populous partway through Euro 2020, and I said, well, how do you... This was a time, obviously, football, Wembley had a 60,000 capacity because we were just coming out of COVID, lockdowns and whatnot, and it was how do you incorporate lockdown design or pandemic design into stadium design? And they said one thing they're thinking loads about was, well, the majority of football fans are single men, or they go in like single men, and you go up, you meet other lads and whatnot. And if the rule of six was still going to exist, you'd have to completely change seating, so it'd be little pods of six around the ground instead. They also told me that one thing you'd have to change a lot if every single stadium had to be COVID compliant was, you know, the long trough in the male urinal. Can't have that anymore.
You are joking.
You only go for the long trough.
I don't even watch the
Jake goes
football.
for.
I just stand around the long trough.
So these are things stadium designers are constantly talking about. One thing that Populous also told me that I found really interesting is how stadium design in the northern hemisphere differs from that in the southern hemisphere. So how do you build a different stadium in the United Kingdom where you are not allowed to drink with an eyesight of the pitch,
fucking bullshit
compared to say Australia, where you can,
or Germany,
where you can, and that means you have to do completely different sight lines, and it means you also have to do completely different fire exits, because the window to drink in a football stadium for the English it's like a 15-minute window in the middle. So you have to. So a lot of fans go doof, 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 doof. Yeah. And if there was a fire partway through the second half, you have to make sure your fire exit can be interpreted with some with 4 pints inside them. These are all things that architects think about when building stadiums. So in terms of will they need to future-proof it past 30 years?
It's a fucking nonsense rule.
Trust me.
Sort of largely influenced by the hooliganism of the 80s, which is not a fucking issue within stadiums at the moment. And ticketing and segregation has completely fucking eliminated that. So there's more aggro at Ascot.
Yes. However, I will say, I look very different to you in a football stadium, and my experiences in a football stadium when things go down are coloured differently by that. So the idea that there's just like a little window when everyone can sober up makes me a bit calmer.
Really?
Yeah, I'm just a little bit. It's just a lot easier for me to take family members, and a lot easier for me to go to grounds if I know there's like 45 minutes where the person behind me who's already quite Larry can't get more Larry by drinking pints.
Oh man, I'm in Stretford and people are fucking drinking wine in there.
Yeah, look, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I'm just saying, look, I'm speaking to you as a very tall black man. And if, for example, when Anthony Joshua has a heavyweight boxing match, there are certain clothes and certain things I won't wear to the pub to watch a match, because you know how a boxing crowd gets is. They're all like, yeah, I'm going to do this. So they'll watch an AJ fight and someone goes, I don't think AJ's a good boxer. And they'll go left and they'll go right and they go, I bet you I can knock him out. And I'm just like, oh.
But that's another crowd
no,
that's
you
allowed
won't,
to
first
drink
of
all
all.
the way through. And it's a way more aggressive crowd than a football crowd.
Yes, but that sort of awareness I always have to have in the back of my head during boxing matches, that people are constantly drinking. And because of the way I look, I'm always like to have one person who's going to try it with me. I'd much rather not have that. And even if you're completely right, the reason why we can't drink is due to rules brought up by the Margaret Thatcher government in response to hooliganism. And those things and those dangers aren't there in the same way as they used to. That reassurance that the football fan can't drink alcohol for 45 minutes, so there's a 45-minute window in a football game where if someone like something at me, I'm like, okay.
But is there a correlation and a causation that's unknown here? Because racism exists across Europe.
Correct.
And most of Europe is allowed to drink.
Yes.
Whereas in England,
However,
do our rules force
English drink, historically speaking.
But does our rules force people to binge drink to be drunker in the crowd?
This
Whereas
is a very good point.
If
I mean, we could write a whole
to
dissertation about this. We could do a whole episode about this.
have a couple while watching a game, would it maybe relax?
I get your
Maybe.
point, Carl, and obviously that's your lived experience as well. And I've had some experience of that myself. One thing I've noticed about the rule, which I think is almost a byproduct, and maybe people might forget it, for a good sort of 10 minutes before the end of the first half, it's half empty.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I'm writing in a
you need to
CRA
get
where
there,
it's meant to be like this, and like there's a good section there where everyone's gone to go and get a beer because you've only got that window.
Yeah.
So I get your point completely what you're talking about, and I've got some experience myself.
I'm
But
like a
I also think that there's that element of it sort of kills a bit of the atmosphere for a good 20 minutes in a game.
There's so many moving parts in
so I think
why not?
So many moving
what it
parts.
doesn't
And
make.
there are various football teams and grounds that have had trials essentially during a way of seeing can it be done. And I think there might be within our lifetimes. You'll be able to drink and look at the game.
Non-league manages it with significant crowds now. There's 5 figures at the top end of non-league now watching it and drinking during the game. It's a fucking bullshit rule, in my opinion.
You used to be able to during European games. Can I remember?
No,
that,
you didn't used to be able to, and it's sponsored by alcohol.
Yeah, I'm sure I've been in Old Trafford before when it's been allowed, but obviously not.
No,
you said you went to Atletico, didn't you?
Yeah.
And in the Champions League game, was it Champions League against Atletico? The beer in the Atletico in the away end was, I think it was like 0.2% or something. So it's basically alcohol free. Yeah. But everyone was buying like 4 pints and just like trying to get pissed on fucking alcohol free.
So
Do
much
you know what I mean? Like getting like absolutely.
Let us know your questions.
I want to hear about Kobbie Mainoo.
Oh yeah, go on. Talk about. Sorry, there's loads of super chats, loads of cat. I will get to a minute, but I want to hear about Kobbie Mainoo. Go on, talk about Kobbie Mainoo because I love Kobbie Mainoo.
Yeah,
what is the question in particular?
Well,
how does Kobbie Mainoo fit into this Amarim system?
Sure,
because there's talk that maybe he doesn't.
Yeah,
which worries me because.
So I want to say this is before,
and we will get to super chats. By the way, there's loads of people who put them in. I'm not going to ignore them.
There was the pre-match press conference before Mainoo got injured. Where he was asked about Mainoo. He was asked about how Ugate's developed. How someone asked him in the Sunday section about how Ugate's changed since he last worked with him at Sporting. Amarim gave a really good answer about how that time at PSG saw him develop in terms of how he used the ball. We know Ugate and his qualities with the ball and how he tackles and whatnot, but said because Ugate spent so much time with PSG working on Luis Enrique, it was one season. He just had he did loads of rombos and learned about passing, and he said that was really important. He goes, everyone's improving in midfield. He goes, Mainoo's improving, and please forgive me for paraphrasing, but he looks left and right and he goes, I know sometimes you in England talk about Mainoo like he's the finished product. You have to remember he's really young and there's loads of things he needs to develop, but he's improving and he's improving every way. Now, what I wanted to do was put my hand up and go, what is he improving in and what's the things you want him to improve in? But then I never elbowed my way into ask. And then, of course, he got injured, so it was quite hard for me to go, like, can I ask you this question from like 6 weeks ago?
Yeah,
maybe when he comes back.
Do it.
So, one thing about Mainoo that will be one question mark thing about Mainoo is he is not an explosive athlete.
Okay.
So he's not. He doesn't have that burst of pace in the same way Paul Pogba does over the first 2 or 3 yards. He's probably a bit similar to Yuri Tielemans in that he's technically very, very tidy, but I'm sure you've seen that viral clip of Tielemans trying to chase back towards his own goal during a counter-attack and he just can't get there. And there have been moments where Mainoo, or when Manchester United during the sort of black hole midfield and donut midfield from last season, where a
the
team,
donut midfield. There you go.
The team is just
that's synonymous with excellence, isn't it? A donut midfield.
The team is just running through Manchester United, and Mainoo is trying his hardest to catch the person with the ball, and he can't get there because Mainoo doesn't have the sixth gear that so many of the Premier League teams now want. You look at a player like Morgan Rogers. Athleticism's there. You look at Onana at Aston Villa. Athleticism's this way. Mainoo is fast, but not.
Yeah, I
We
agree with that.
don't have anyone that's got that level of pace.
No,
really.
No,
I mean,
not really.
I wouldn't mind seeing what Dogu's got in his locker, but outside of him and maybe Højlund.
The fastest person in the straight line last season was Dalot, which surprised me.
Oh, come on.
But he can do it. He can run in straight sprint. He's got it. Now, because of that, I think that lack of explosivity is why Amorim tried moving him to the number 10 position, because he went, well, the two in midfield need to be able to go up and down with that level.
I think he works in a tight space as well because of that lateral movement that he's got.
Yep, he's got good lateral quickness. He can make the ball stick. If you give him the ball, he's the most press resistant central midfielder United have. So that's a very interesting way to use Mainoo, and I want to see him more in that 10 position. Unfortunately, we haven't seen much of him because of the injury. So there's that. And this is me thinking not only with a Manchester United hat on, but unfortunately, and you can all yell at me, I'm also thinking with the England hat on as well.
Your journalism hat on as well.
Yeah, so you've got your England, United, and your journalism hat on.
Wait till I put my Ghana hat on as well, because that's Mainoo's family comes from there too. But also, if you look from an England perspective as well, I mean, England needs someone to play next to Declan Rice, and I mean, Mainoo won that war over the Euros, didn't he?
Of course he did. Because
Mainoo, the skills he has, in theory, fit quite nicely to that deeper position. However, if Mainoo is going to exist in your pivot as one of these red ones, the thing he needs to show and the thing he needs to develop, and the thing I think Amorim wants to see most, is his longer passing. We know Mainoo's got a good 5-yard pass on him. We know he can recycle possession.
Yeah. Has he got a switch?
Has he got a switch? And the interesting thing...
Casemiro over the top first-time curler.
It's fucking huge.
Yeah. And I don't want to say he can't do it, because this is his only second season. He's still only 19.
We ain't seen it.
We haven't seen it yet until ... Manchester Derby at the Etihad. Mount goes off. Mainoo came on. Mainoo hit a couple of switches, and I remember being on the ground going, hang on, I didn't know you had this.
Do you know there was a drill Paul Scholes used to do with Ronnie Mullenstein and Valencia, probably Nani as well, where he used to just have him in the centre circle with a couple of mannequins, and he would play balls to him, he'd take it around the corner and just fucking bosh one to the wings, and he would just do like 50 reps of doing that. That's what he needs to do.
Yeah.
And look, Mainoo is...
Backspin, drop it, there you go.
Such an interesting player. I don't want to say he can't do anything yet. I do want to say there are certain things he hasn't shown. A lot of them because he's barely played the sort of football.
It's not like Paul Scholes came out the gate hitting them either.
Exactly.
So.
I mean, secretly, there's 3 different Paul Scholes, which is the argument we always make. There's the Scholes. The Scholes that won the treble is a more traditional box-to-box midfielder, and the ball progression has been given to you by the wings. Then you've got the Paul Scholes, who's basically a second striker behind Van Nistelrooy.
And the one who played in the 3.
And then you've got the one who
you could argue
most
4,
fondly...
You could argue 4, because when he first broke onto the scene, he was like a sort of second striker, not the same.
He's had 2 different second strikers since.
Yeah.
Two different. So second striker early on, box to box.
One was more like a Mark Hughes style, combative sort of. Not fox in the box, but sort of like a fucking nuisance in the box.
Deceptively
good. There was like that, like you say about that
that
second striker thing, like when Veron came and he pushed him right up.
Yeah.
Didn't stick around for long. So that was eventually Veron got dropped.
So that was a really interesting time, because Ferguson United very clearly came to this decision where they needed a little bit more control in games, and they, for whatever reason, didn't believe Scholes or the other players.
I think they were so fucking close to modern football with that team, because they had the 3. Like right now, if you brought those players from 2000, 2001, and went Roy Keane, Paul Scholes, Veron, you'd be like, we need another ball for the other team because this is ridiculous.
That's like
but we didn't have
perfect midfield.
Last man wingers.
No.
We had 2 midfielders and a striker.
Yes.
That was the difference. If you'd have had Ronaldo and Rooney with that team, that team wins everything.
You're in. Now, one of the interesting things was when Veron came in, there's interviews where Scholes his nose has been put out of joint a little bit, right? Because that's the role he wants. But he, at that time, didn't have it until a bit later on, where you get to Scholes 22 absolutely had that down pat. So yeah, Mainoo, interesting. If you can show more of the progressive passing, especially over those longer distances, if you can hit those switches more, then the central midfield position is on. Again, ... That will change. That will mean the person who plays next to him will have to have certain attributes. So, I mean, this is the really interesting thing, is that it's a lot easier to find a central midfield player to play next to Ugarte. Way easier. The shopping list is just way more clear because Ugarte is just more of a fixed product. But because Mainoo is such this amorphous, interesting prospect, you shouldn't. I think I've said this before on the show. Do you just go out and get a player and go, this player is really good at tackling and progressive passing, we just need you to focus on shuttling? Or do you go, this player's this, you can figure it out for a bit? I think at a better Man United, a better or more structured Man United team, Mainoo has the time and space to grow in the way he wants.
Yeah.
But because United are a bit of a mess, you want him to figure it out by
Does the
22?
transfer restrictions that we're anticipating having give him the time, or is his sellable asset window an issue that might see him moved on?
That's a good question. I think a lot of this is going to come down to Amrin's personal preferences.
And or if he signs a deal.
Do you think anyone can ever actually just figure it out themselves, though? Or is... Because I think, like, if you come through... like we mentioned with Enrique and Ugarte, if that, instead of being Enrique, was Simeone, Ugarte would be a different player now to what he was. And Rashford, part of Rashford's...
really good, though.
The problem I have with all the hate Rashford gets is the absolute blender of systems that he's been in for the last 7 years. And now you're like, well, what is he? You're like, I don't think he knows. But, like, can Mainoo... Do you think that...
Can you figure it out at Manchester United?
Yeah. And
can you figure out Manchester United that doesn't have Sir Alex Ferguson in charge?
Is he going to be just being in this team and around this manager?
No, I think what's probably more likely to happen is someone in the player trading department goes, this is Mainoo's partner, and you're like, Mainoo, these are the things you have to learn because this is your partner now. However, that doesn't mean Mainoo can't figure out all...
Wouldn't it be nice if we had options as well? If we we actually had more than one option in midfield or more than two options.
Mainoo's such an interesting player.
Let's keep hold of our...
I don't think you should cash out now.
Yeah, I don't...
No one else even remotely like him.
No, and that's not just for Manchester United. I think, again, England hat on.
Those Seedorf comparisons didn't come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
There was legitimacy to the sass that he was playing with.
Yeah.
I just don't understand how it already...
It wasn't just that he was a thick black dude.
After the FA Cup
He means
final...
thick as in legs, as in the thickness of his legs, not his intelligence.
Seedorf.
Fingertips.
Can't call Seedorf thick, man. He's one of the most intelligent footballers ever.
I love listening to Seedorf as well on the telly. He's brilliant.
Same with Mainoo. He's got that.
I'm gonna breeze through this. It's like speed dating this now, Carl. Matt G, Carl, Jonathan David, Semenyo, or Mateta? Oh, none of them.
Or pick a fourth.
Yeah.
Mateta.
Ian Warren, what type of forward fits in our system? Channels, dropping deep, connecting play, box finisher. Can we play a false nine?
The answer to that is yes. As in, you want all of that in one player. If you go in a time machine and go, which Man United player? I'm going to go in a time machine and I'm going to bring you a United player to go, this is the player you need to be buying. So I'm going in a time machine and I'm bringing you 2008 Michael Carrick. That's the sort of midfielder you need. I'm going in a time machine and I'm bringing you a version of Roy Keane.
We've spoke about this.
You can pick a version.
This is alive. I can't edit.
All right, I'm going back in time. I'm bringing a Michael Carrick in. I'm going back in time. I'm bringing you a Roy Keane. I'm also going. If you want me to pick a striker, I'm going back in time, and ideally, I'm bringing you either a younger Cavani, so like a Napoli Cavani, or I'm bringing you Ibra, so it can also help run the dressing room. So you want a physically dominant striker. Bit of hold-up play, you can run the channels as well. Those are so expensive.
Rude.
But a little Louis Saha.
Yeah.
I interviewed him recently. He's delightful.
Louis was a little bit different in terms of that. I fucking love Louis.
He's one of my favourites.
I asked him about how he viewed his role at Manchester United not too long ago, and he said, he saw Van Nistelrooy as the complete sort of striker. He said, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's movement in and around the box was amazing, and his finishing. So he went. So I looked at all the strikers, and I thought the best way I can stick out was what's the things I have that don't necessarily have it. Because one of the things he wanted was hold up play, because there wasn't necessarily hold up play there. And he said, I think I can battle in the air to a different level of all these.
Yeah, and he's like 5'9".
He's not tall.
I've interviewed Louis not long ago.
But he was ridiculous in the air.
I'm sure he's a bit taller. He must be 6 foot.
He could hold the ball up very well.
Yes.
Might be missing
And he said that was
it's such a powerful
He was a hand grenade. He was a hand grenade of a player. He was a fucking nightmare. Can you imagine trying to mark him? Oh.
Mate, that Portsmouth, was it Portsmouth when he got injured, wasn't it?
Yeah,
horrible.
If you get him,
that would have been the treble.
Yeah.
But you don't remember him from the 2008 season when we won the double, but he was there.
Yeah, I remember the Chelsea game.
He was important.
We got that penalty.
He's had absolutely
that foul that was a foul.
Rotten luck with so he's suspended for the 2006 World Cup final.
I'm sorry, but that was the most insane thing that any footballer has ever done in that semi-final. do not get a yellow card, and you're going to a World Cup final. So what does he do? Gets the most obvious yellow card ever right in front of the referee. I remember screaming at me telly, why have you done that? You absolute lunatic.
All you have to do is not.
Yeah, just don't get a yellow, and you're playing in a World Cup final, and then in the middle of the pitch, no, I'm going to do this. And then he'll start like he weren't even asked.
We've all been there.
Yeah, that's fair. It was like Scholesy-esque. Cameron S, who's been a member of the Academy for 53 months, says, absolutely love Carl and his articles. I saw him outside OT at the Brentford game in October and wanted to show love, but he was talking GGMU. Very polite there, but you can always approach Carl. He's an approachable guy. The Brentford game in October. That's, Brentford. Have we played Brentford? Yeah.
Oh, we won. Sorry, I wasn't.
Yeah, we won.
Oh, God.
It's a rare moment where we won a relatively comfortable game at Old Trafford, which there's not many to choose from this season.
Sorry, so many games. Sometimes I forget if I was actually at them.
They all melt into one because they're so
fucking do recently, Jesus.
I know. Well, just keep winning.
Thank you. I'm sorry I didn't say hello.
Well, it's not your fault. He didn't say hello to you. Stevie86 says, Carl, do you have any info on 115 charges against Man City? Up the Paddock, GGMU for life. Yeah.
No, I don't.
Does anyone know when we might know?
Well, there was chatter that
we should cash.
They say March.
There was chatter that it could have happened. So there was chatter going into Monday that we should start prepping.
Right.
And then obviously it's Friday now.
There's all this talk in there that Sky have been briefed about what they can say about it when it drops. Stick to the facts.
You just do. You do.
Yeah.
Hopefully they cheated and we knew.
Yeah, they cheated. Factually, they cheated. We can say that. And they've now been relegated.
I just want one of the charges to stick, and then I can just dismiss everything.
Yeah.
And whether that's only me that gets to do that,
even if it's just
I don't care.
You know that, like, if they get fined guilty of like 114, City fans are gonna act like they're innocent. Like,
they already did it with a cast thing. They were like, "See, not guilty," and you're like, "No, it literally says you're guilty," and they were like, "Well, we
ran out of time.
You paid a fine." No, we didn't do it.
Yeah. Sorry. So what you're saying, Carl, is you think they're guilty? Yeah.
You can say that. That's not libelous.
4 hats and I don't even know where he's
he hadn't got.
The difference would be if you went. Listen, here's what you go. You go if you said, "Oh, they're definitely guilty," right? That's libelous. But if you went, "I think they're guilty," that's not libelous.
How?
Carl's got better things to do than his time than argue with City fans online, so we'll leave him alone on that front.
If they got off with it, and that would be funny. And then
what? No,
the
that'd be horrible.
Released a book called "If I Did It." Like, just pure O.J. Simpson style. Like, we didn't do all that. But if we did,
here's how we did.
Here's how we would have done it.
Carl didn't have O.J. Simpson on his brew bingo today. Brian Kelville says, I have 11 windows open on my browser. What? Well, I'm not reading that out. Because that's just a super chat. You've got to read it out. It's not an insult. It's just what's happened. But it's not. It's a bit much.
It's a bit more.
Yeah.
Oh, fair.
Yeah. That's a different comment.
Because of our title.
Happens to me all the time.
Happens to the best of us. Right, on that bombshell, I'm going to wrap it up there. Carl managed to go on. Please carry on. This is your podcast now.
The reason we had this tactics board is because I did a whole piece on wing backs today, for Friday, and it was all about what sort of wing backs. If you can't buy a wing back, which United might not be able to buy all the wing backs, how do you make a wing back?
Go on, Diallo, yes or no? Because I really rated him.
I'm keeping him
in the right.
So
wing back role.
the thing with him is he's exhausted. He has played a phenomenal amount of football. No Man United players played more football than him since the start of last season. He's played more minutes than Bruno Fernandes. He doesn't have the secret sauce or whatever magic's going on with Bruno Fernandes where he doesn't seem exhausted. He's got his
Can
crossing.
we get him in a lap? Can we do some cycling shit
to Bruno Fernandes? Do some cycling shit, buddy.
What?
How many times do we have to tell you? You have to say allegedly.
No. Cycling shit.
Cycling's dirty in a fucking weekend in Wales, mate.
I think we're on pretty safe ground to say that, there's
there might have been some fuckery afoot in cycling.
There were some people bending the rules in cycling.
Yes.
I think it's safe to say that
I think
chicanery did go on there. I think Steve's all right there.
Fernandes is that it's widely known that of all the players who responded to Cristiano Ronaldo returning, Diogo took on the most lessons and improved the most and went, wow, okay, what do I need to learn? And the thing he took the most from Cristiano was recovery and the importance of recovery and the importance of availability is your greatest talent. And Diogo's greatest talent is his availability. No one is.
Unfortunately, at the moment.
He is putting so much effort.
There's a school that thought that maybe he's only. Not mine, by the way.
Partway through the game against Leicester, he's wearing a whoop band, which you have.
Oh God, don't set him off on that.
Tracks your recovery, tracks your sleep, tracks your fitness. And he, to the point where Rasmus Højlund did an interview in Danish TV, I want to say earlier this season, last international break, where he said round Carrington, Rasmus calls him mini Cristiano because of just how much work Diogo is putting in to make sure that he's always there, which is great. You are always there. Unfortunately, you are always there, which means so much is going on that you are having to deal with because there's no one else there to deal with it. And this is why I mean, there are games when I'm watching the first 10 minutes against Leicester, he like whips in the cross. I'm like, oh mate, that's not a good cross. But also, he eases into it. He learns into it. I'm like, you don't have the time to focus on the other stuff. Unfortunately, the thing that happens with many United players in the post-Ferguson era is that you're good at one thing, and then could you just sort that bit out?
Yeah. Unfortunately, football's not usually.
Can you sort that bit out? And can you sort that bit out? And then can you sort that bit out? And then you're just like, you've given me 6 things here, and I'm only good at and you've dropped it all. And I think that's what's happened to Diogo. He's played right back, left back, invert. He's been tasked. Can you invert? Can you invert into midfield? Can you supply overlapping? Can you supply underlapping? Can we do
that underlapping into the box, which was quite effective? And everyone went, all right, keep doing that.
Yep. Yeah. He's had so many jobs, and he's had to take on all this information while running what I think is level 6 is what Axel Tuanzebe said to Harrison during that great interview as well. So he's doing all this at such a high intensity. Yeah. It's no wonder his execution of certain things isn't the greatest. I think you should keep him. I also think you should probably get him a backup so he's not so exhausted in games. He's a good player. He's an intelligent player. He's just unfortunately...
And he gives a shit as well, which is it's an intangible. Like you can't really figure out what does that actually relate to, and what impact does that have on everything. But it matters.
Yes.
And he absolutely gives a shit.
Does.
But we've seen how few players do.
Quenda's gone to Chelsea. And one of the problems with wing-backs, and one of the things about shopping for wing-backs, and this is in the piece as well, is that the talent pool for wing-backs is quite shallow because most teams do a back four. And also, the best wing-backs in the world already play at clubs that use them. So Inter Milan, Bayer Leverkusen, Sporting Lisbon, Atalanta to an extent. And we talk about United tax, right? And I said this on Talk of the Devils yesterday. If I am Inter Milan right now, and the summer window opens, I'm just going to sit there, look at my phone, and just wait for Man United to call up, asking for Dumfries, and I go 80 million. Oh, but no, he's 80 million. Because if I have good wing backs, why would I sell you good wing backs?
Because it's only about 12.
Exactly, it's only about 12, which means ... Man United are going to need to start making them. So I talked to Warnock, who had played at wing back at various points in his career. I talked to a fantastic academy coach about whether or not the Premier League clubs have ever had a day where they walk into, Premier League academy coaches have had a day where they go, boss has made the call, turn all these fullbacks into wing-backs. And they gave me an answer as to, well, actually, no, you don't actually get that call. There was maybe a short spell when Conte was at Chelsea, but in general, you don't do that. But if you are trying to turn a football player into a wing-back, here's all the things you need. And the reason we got the tactics board was not only do they need to have certain skills, but what's really important...
Go on, Carl. Get your marker out, so.
Is what is referred to as the triangle angle. So it's not only that your wing back needs to be super athletic and have loads of legs. I'm going to flip it this way. It's not only that your wing back needs to be super athletic and have loads of legs and be really, really good at crossing the ball, but also it's that your wide centre backs, they have to be athletic too. You do not want Harry Maguire as your wide wing back because this defender has to be able to cover loads of space if this player's been caught high up the field and the ball gets played in deep. The second goal we concede against Everton at Goodison Park is a very good example of what happens when, because Dorgu's caught high up the field, Bruno Fernandes goes to press the player to do this, all this space is opened up, De Ligt comes over to try and cover, so there's just a pass inside and then it gets played in behind Maguire can't get there and it all falls apart. Your wide centre back needs to be really, really athletic. Your midfield player needs to be an absolute defensive dog. Because again, if your player gets caught up here, this person needs to be able to cover this space as well. You want dog fielders here, thug fielders here.
Thug fielders.
Right? You want the sort of player that...
6'4", German.
Mr. Howson.
Square-headed.
Mr. Howson, are you ever familiar with the term the third half or the fifth quarter?
No.
So this was the idea that there were certain... If you played sports on a Sunday league or whatever, there were certain teams where you played away and you just knew if you won, you weren't changing or drinking because they're going to win the third half.
Oh yeah, I've heard this.
They were going to beat the shit out of you because they beat you. So there are certain. I mean, I played
2 o'clock tomorrow if you want to come down.
I played loads of sport in and around Essex, and there were certain teams I played loads of rugby in Essex, and I played loads of football in Essex, and there were certain teams where we just knew you put all your gear in the car, because if you win, you get out because they're going to win the third half, or they're going to win the fifth quarter if it was basketball or whatnot. You want dog fielders.
Thug fielders.
Thank you. Who are interested in winning the third half. This is why that Ugarte quote was always doing the rounds about when we have the ball, it's a game, but when we don't, it's a fight. A quote I use a lot that was told to me by Tony Adams, who said, when it kicks off, you need 7. Who are Manchester United's 7 for when it kicks off? Ugarte's one.
I reckon Martinez is steaming in there. Nana strikes me as someone that gets.
Mount's one who's talking to the ref, calming them down, so not everyone gets sent off.
Too many peacekeepers.
Casemiro goes in.
Not anymore.
Mazraoui, for the suggestion for Mazraoui. We know the team loves Mazraoui and will scrap for Mazraoui.
Yeah,
not enough.
Of that.
Not enough. You need
Ahmad's in there.
This guy.
He might be little,
this
but he's in there.
needs to be very athletic.
Dogu's in there.
Thug fielders,
Dogu's in there.
very athletic, and you want your central centre back to be very communicative. I've been Carl Anka. This has been The Brew. We'll see you next week.
Carl, right. Big thank you to Carl.
Cheers, mate. That was really
well
good.
done.
That was great.
Go and check out. There's a link in the chat for Carl's articles in The Athletic. Go and check them out. All in-depth analysis. Make sure you're checking that out. Where's your game tomorrow? What time?
Near Carrington, Partington.
Yay! P-Town.
Mersey Valley. It's a big fucking game.
Yeah.
Is it?
It's a big old game.
Make sure you're ready for the third half in Partington, bro. That used to be our thing. Carl, always a pleasure, never a chore. Steve.
Cheers, Carl.
You're not in, I know, for 2.5 weeks.
Enjoy Japan. Do what we said earlier. Avenge my great granddad.
I will do.
There's always something in there. When I think I've got away with it, he always drops something.
Thank you.
Joe's going to be away for 2.5 weeks, but he is, like the dedicated little soldier that he is, he's going to be doing the news from Japan in his kimono.
Yeah.
This is what I mean. The guy's an absolute legend. Carl, you're a legend. Thank you for coming on The Brew. Thanks for going through those tactics as well. Joe, see you soon. Don't forget to hit like, share and subscribe. There's another load of videos coming out of the weekend as well, so don't miss out on them. This has been The Brew. That's been Carl Anka. That's been Joe Smith. That was Stephen Howson. I've been Jay Moy. Thanks for watching.